The Cuban Missile Crisis stands as one of the tensest moments in modern history, a time when the world teetered on the brink of nuclear war. For 13 days in October 1962, the United States and the Soviet Union faced off in a political and military standoff over the presence of Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba. This confrontation was a defining moment in the Cold War and changed the course of international relations forever. In this video, we'll break down the crisis, exploring how it began, what happened during those fateful days, and its lasting impact on the world. The roots of the Cuban Missile Crisis go back to the Cold War tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. In the early 1960s, the United States had nuclear missiles stationed in Turkey, directly threatening the Soviet Union. In response, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev devised a plan to secretly place nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. This decision was also influenced by the failed Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, where the United States attempted to overthrow Cuban leader Fidel Castro. Castro feared another American invasion, and Khrushchev saw an opportunity to protect Cuba while gaining a strategic advantage. On October 14, 1962, American U-2 spy planes captured photographic evidence of the Soviet missiles in Cuba. This discovery set the stage for a high-stakes confrontation between the world's two superpowers. Once President John F. Kennedy was informed of the missile installations, he convened a group of top advisors known as the Executive Committee of the National Security Council, or EXCOM. The United States had several options: invade Cuba, conduct airstrikes to destroy the missiles, or attempt a naval blockade. On October 22nd, Kennedy addressed the nation, announcing the discovery of the missiles and imposing a naval blockade, termed a quarantine, around Cuba. He demanded the removal of the missiles and warned the Soviets of severe consequences if they refused. This speech shocked the world, and tensions escalated quickly. As Soviet ships approached the blockade, the world waited in suspense. Would they attempt to break through, sparking military conflict? On October 24th, some Soviet ships stopped or turned around, but others continued toward Cuba. Meanwhile, negotiations between Kennedy and Khrushchev continued, with both sides aware of the catastrophic consequences of failure. By October 27th, the situation reached its peak when an American U-2 plane was shot down over Cuba and the United States prepared for possible military action. However, behind the scenes, secret negotiations were taking place. On October 28th, Khrushchev announced that the Soviet Union would dismantle its missiles in Cuba in exchange for a United States promise not to invade Cuba. Additionally, the United States agreed to secretly remove its missiles from Turkey, though this detail was kept out of the public eye at the time. The Cuban Missile Crisis marked a turning point in the Cold War. It was the closest the world had ever come to nuclear war, and both sides recognized the need for better communication to avoid such a crisis in the future. In 1963, the United States and the Soviet Union established the hotline, a direct communication link between Washington and Moscow to ensure quick contact in times of emergency. The crisis also led to a shift in Cold War dynamics. The US emerged with a perceived diplomatic victory as it forced the Soviet Union to back down. However, the agreement to remove US missiles from Turkey showed that both sides had made significant concessions. In the years following the crisis, both superpowers took steps to reduce the risk of nuclear war. The Limited Test Ban Treaty, signed in 1963, prohibited nuclear weapons testing in the atmosphere, underwater, and in space. The Cuban Missile Crisis stands as a reminder of the dangers of nuclear brinkmanship and the importance of diplomacy in resolving international conflicts. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a defining moment of the 20th century, one that brought the world to the edge of disaster before diplomacy and rational leadership prevailed. The lessons learned during those 13 tense days still resonate today, as the threat of nuclear weapons remains a global concern. Understanding the Cuban Missile Crisis helps us appreciate the importance of communication, diplomacy, and careful decision-making in preserving peace. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more historical insights.